Casey Gray here from The Conscious Builder, and on today's episode, we have Derrick Kinney on. Derrick believes that money is not bad and good people should have more of it. And I love this quote that is right from his website, and it says, "Good money in the hands of good people gets good work done." He launched the Good Money Framework and the new Good Money podcast to change the conversation about money by teaching his community and to put meaning behind their money, and share good money insights from A-list guests like Matthew McConaughey, Daymond John, and Michael Hyatt. We need to be conscious about what we're doing with our money, where our money is going, especially in business, especially as business owners. And Derrick is the man to talk to. Derrick will get you excited about not only making money, but also giving money. And as he says in our podcast, as you listen to this, you will see that money is like a river. It needs to keep flowing. If it's in a pond, it'll just get stagnant and start to grow all sorts of moss all over it and all sorts of whatever else grows in the pond. So you got to keep that money flowing. More importantly, you need to keep the money flowing to take care of your business, take care of your family, take care of your employees, take care of your clients. Money, if you don't love to talk about it, is a very important part of our lives, and we need to make sure that we have a good relationship with it. Derrick is the man to talk to us about that. So I won't hold you up any longer. Here is Derrick Kinney. All right, Derrick, thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure, Casey. Great to be with you today.
I'm excited because we get to talk about money, and money is a very touchy subject for a lot of people. And personally, I've been actually doing a lot of education for myself around money and understanding money and the whole idea behind money, where it came from. I don't know if you're familiar with like the Bitcoin Standard, the book, but he talks a lot about currencies and what's worked and what hasn't worked. And there's a lot of interesting things happening in the world right now, especially around money. So that's why I'm really excited to talk about this, because I don't know exactly where the conversation is going to go, but I love what you're doing with Good Money Framework. And I believe that as business owners, having a good relationship with money is key, or else there's so many things that can go wrong. And one of yours, well, actually, we'll get to your saying, I won't give it away right now, but let's start with, what is Good Money Framework and where did it come from?
Sure. So I have a financial planning background. I had a financial planning practice for 25 years and actually just sold that about a year ago. But I sold it because of a belief that I had, and I began to implement this with clients in the latter years of my practice. And that was that money is not bad and good people should have more of it. In society today, Casey, there's so much villainization of money that if you have money, you're bad. If you talk about money, you're greedy. If you have too much money, well, certainly you've done something illegal or immoral to accumulate that money. So it almost has this negative stigma around it. And so if I'm a business owner listening right now, I'm being very cautious about, look, if I look like I make too much money, if I look too successful, I might get criticized for that. And I gave that a lot of thought and really thought that's wrong. That's absolutely wrong. It's the business owners of this country that create the jobs, that grow the economy, that really help make a better standard of living for their families and the families of whom they employ, and they make the lives of their customers even better. So what I began to do was flip that completely around and said, look, money is no longer bad. It's actually good, and it's a tool. It's almost a secret weapon that people can use to not only grow their business, but position their money in a way that as they grow their business, they're actually giving money away to the organizations and causes they deeply believe in. And here's what's funny about that. It actually attracts even more business because people like to be part of something bigger than themselves. And so that's where the good money concept came out of. And it's been proven thousands of times as business owners implement these strategies, it really, really works.
Yeah, I love that because it's so true. Like when you're a good person with good money, you can do a lot of good things. That's one of your sayings, I believe, right? So
Yes.
that's exactly what you're teaching, and that's so true. What was your background like when you were growing up? What was it like around money in your family and as a child?
Yeah, I grew up, I would say middle class. When you look back, you didn't really know what you didn't have as a kid. I grew up, had my own bedroom, went to public school, all those kind of things. But as I looked back on it now, my family was just working hard to make ends meet. My dad would work as an engineer, and then he would actually drive a van to help provide some extra income. So he would meet people at this van stop. People would pile in, drive to work, come back. And so it was kind of fun to drive around in this van on the weekends to kind of do different things, but it allowed him to make some extra money. But what I realized was they were living basically hand to mouth in terms of not being able to save a whole lot of money. And I think one thing that I observed was when I was a junior in college, my dad's job was taken away. And so he was faced with a very difficult decision, as many parents are, to leave their kids and their family to go find work. And so we live in Arlington, Texas, right between Dallas and Fort Worth. He found a job with a college buddy of his up in Oregon. So that was a moment where I was very sad and lonely at first, but it sort of was a kick in the pants for me to say, Derrick, this is your time now. You've got to be independent and you've got to make things happen for yourself. But looking back as a kid, a couple funny stories. I just enjoyed money. I came up with all kinds of elaborate ideas to make money. I cleaned driveways off, the oil and the dirt and so forth around the neighborhood. I would actually inspect the bikes around the neighborhood. I made up these little fake inspection stickers out of paper and taped it on the end that held the seat together there, checking the chain and the seat, all these kind of things. My favorite, though, was I actually created an amortization chart and I put it on the back of my closet so I could loan my parents money. And they very humorously paid me back certain rates of interest based on how much I loaned them and so forth. But I think finance was always sort of in my blood, but I just enjoyed money. And then what happened as a kid is something really clicked, Casey. And it was, I could use money then to give money away. And I remember giving money anonymously to the local food pantry that our church sponsored. And I'm a right-handed guy, I would actually write in my left hand on the envelope so they couldn't sort of trace it back to me as if they were going to do that anyway. But it just allowed me to take a couple bucks and make me feel like I was helping make someone else's life better. And that's where it really ballooned from there. So as I built my financial planning business, that became part of the fabric of how we built it and really began to get recognized in our community as one of the go-to, if not the go-to financial advisors in our local area.
That's fantastic, though. Giving part. One of the things my wife and I started doing is that we used to sell, like if you have something used, whatever, you sell it, right? We
Right.
decided this past year, maybe towards the end of last year, just said we're not going to sell anything anymore. We're just going to give everything away. Whenever we need to get rid of something, if it's a personal thing, we'll just give it away. We'll find somebody to give it to.
Yes.
What's funny is that things have started happening for us that we can't plan for, right? So it's funny because you start to give more and then you end up getting more, which is interesting. We're not, we donate to a few charities every month, but we're just like, we had extra furniture, for example, because when COVID hit, we had a few Airbnbs, we had a studio, like we closed a bunch of stuff. So we just started giving the furniture away. And then all this other stuff started coming back to us like tenfold sort of thing, which is really interesting because money's really just energy. Is it not?
It
Form
really
of
is.
energy?
So many people, yeah, many people think of money like this pond that they want to hoard, and that pond fills up. And what often happens with ponds, if you've been to a swamp and so forth, it sort of gets this film on top, this scum, and it accumulates really a stench. So water that stands still is actually attracting what's not good. And so what I think about money, instead of it's more like a river, you want to keep it in motion. So many people, I'll give you an example here, Casey. So many people say, well, you know what, Derrick, I don't have much money now, but once I make more money, then I will begin to give it away and really impact those organizations I care about. And what I would say to you is this: mathematically, that may work because the time value of money says, you know what? The time value of money is worth more in the future than it is today. So therefore, I need to wait and give a bigger amount. But what I would tell you is this: let's say that 6 months, a year, however long you wait, there's an impact deficit that occurs. So even though it was a smaller amount you could have given now, that's 6 to 12 months or longer worth of impact that your money missed out on in terms of actually benefiting real people, real causes, and helping right some real wrongs that are out there. So I encourage people to say, look, each paycheck, each month, whether it's a family meeting around the dinner table and you've picked a couple items that you want to support as a family, or around the boardroom, or in your local small business and you've got your team members around and you pick a couple causes that you're all passionate about, you want to keep that money flowing because I just believe that's the way to build momentum. But as you said, there's this mystery that occurs, and that is oftentimes the people who bless others are often blessed themselves. I'm a big fan of tithing it to my church, and that concept, whether you do that to your church or even businesses that apply it, they take that 10% or more, they find that comes back to them in spades in terms of new clients, better retention of clients, new business, better retention of employees, because they feel like they're part of something bigger than just going to that 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, so this is where I find it might get a little tricky because you have to have this belief, you have to give, and the more you give, the more you receive. We've heard that a lot too. But you also need to make money. You need to charge for things as well. So where is that line? Like, how do you draw that line versus what you should be charging as your business versus what you should be giving away or can be giving away if you choose to do so?
Yeah, so here's what I find the beauty is of the good money framework, because I didn't want to just come up with this idea and share this belief without saying, here's what you can do with it. So many people, Casey, think that giving is a win-lose relationship, that I've got money. If I give it, therefore I've lost something and another organization has gained something. That's just common logic right there. But what we found is that by differentiating yourself as a preferred provider in the marketplace in whatever business you have, where you either say, I'm going to give a portion of my profits, or I'm going to publicize that each job that we do, we will take a percentage and give to the cause that you feel most important, or you will engage your team and say, hey, if we hit this new sales goal, we're going to give this amount to the charities or the organizations that you believe in. So what we're doing is we're tangibly hitting the bottom line and ringing the cash register. That's vital to this whole framework because that's really how you feel good about it. And I think what I find is people will pay not just for value in terms of the quality of the work that you provide, they'll also pay for the value of them getting to be a part of something bigger than themselves. I'll give you an example. Let's say that there's 5 real estate agents that a person is talking to, all of them equal competent, equal trustworthy. They're all good negotiators. But one of the realtors says to you, there's a lot of realtors to pick from in town, but one of my core beliefs is I like to not only help you find the house of your dreams, I like to help other people affect their dreams for their future. Each home you buy or sell through me, I give a percentage of that to a cause that's important to you. Now, all things equal, which of those 5 realtors are you likely going to go with?
With the one who's going to give away to the cause.
Yeah. And it's so simple. And you may think to yourself, well, Derrick, if I do that, then I'm losing money. It's sort of like I'm cutting my commission. What I will tell you, and this has been proven time and time again, you may lose a little bit on the short side of that, but on the long side, they will refer people beyond belief. And also, you're likely going to not only retain them as a customer for the next house they buy, but their kids, word of mouth spreads. And so what often happens is I talked to a gentleman yesterday who gave me a really good visual, and he put a $20 bill on his forehead. He said, Derrick, a lot of business owners think everybody has a $20 bill or $100 bill on their forehead, and their job is to get that away from them as quickly as possible. That's the transaction. But the reality is, even if you got a little bit of that, but you got it over a longer period of time and they were committed to working with you and their friends and neighbors realized the value that you provided, that's a much more sustainable and profitable relationship. And that's really goes to the core of what Good Money Framework is all about, helping people not only make more money, but then they can choose either to give that money away, give a part of it away, but they then get to choose to either have a higher standard of living, impact their family in ways they couldn't do before. But if you're like me, I just like making money. It's motivating to me. It's like a scorecard, not to hoard it and not to say I'm better than someone else, but to use it as a resource because all of us have tools That's a tool I like to use to help make other people's lives better. And in the meantime, it's making my life more fulfilled as well.
Yeah, it comes down to using money as opposed to letting money use you.
Well said.
The what are some of the beliefs? Because you work a lot on mindset and beliefs around money. So what are some of the beliefs that people tend to have in your experience that hold them back from making money or keeping money?
Well, one main belief is that what can I really do? So many people I talk to say, Derrick, the world is such a big place. What can I, one person, really do to cause impact, to really move the needle? And what I do then is I say, let's really pull back. And I say, for example, if they are in construction and they're building a house for someone, well, are you building houses for everyone in the world? And they say, well, no. Are you building houses for everyone in your entire city? And they say, no. What about the block? No. You're building a house for this particular couple right now. And so what I then say is, let's just make it very personal. I had a guest on my podcast recently that said, Derrick, if you want to change the world, start by walking across the street. And what he meant was look around you and see what needs are right around you, a few feet away from you that you can impact. That might be giving $20 to the homeless person. That might mean you see a student who really needs to be affirmed and believed, and you offer to take him to coffee or just take him to lunch and say, hey, I really like what I see in you, and I want to affirm that. Or you have a relative in your family that maybe their parents haven't saved as well, and they just need that one tuition payment to get them to junior college, to have somebody believe in them and realize that they can do it. Or there's a need, for example, in your kid's school. They come home and they say, you know what? Susan's dad lost his job and they don't know what they're going to do. Could we do something? All of those are practical ways to put meaning to a person's money. So the belief that really, what can I do? I want to dismiss that right off the top. The second thing is people often think back to what beliefs they had when they were younger. And you'd be surprised by this. And I'm not a psychologist. I kind of play one on TV. As an advisor, you go from advisor to counselor. I know you do the same with clients as well.
Wear lots of hats. We're also
Yes.
marriage counselor.
Yes. You see a whole lot of life right in front of you. And people think back to how did they see their mom or dad handle money? How did they see their grandparents respond to financial crisis? Was there the sound of the fist pounding on the table? If we only had more money, we could do more of this. All of that leaves indelible impressions in people's eyes and their psyches of money is the enemy. And we're barely going to make it. Our family is just one of the have-nots in that category that we're just going to struggle. And I want to come against that really, really hard. But first of all, I want to offer forgiveness for those parents that just didn't know anything else. That might have been what they saw modeled for them. That might have just been the life that they had. But right now, I believe entrepreneurs and those people with a drive to solve people's pain points have the most power than at any point in modern history. I mean, as I think of us, Casey, coming out of COVID, if you're an entrepreneur with an idea, with drive, with passion, with resilience, and you're okay making mistakes, falling face down, getting back up and realizing that's part of the process, this is gold for you. You may well have robbed a bank and not get caught because you have capital that you can do some things with. So what I would just say is on a piece of paper, just write down, what do I believe about money right now? And I use this metaphor of a jar, and I'll say, metaphorically, place that in the jar and just step back. And you want to observe that. And the goal is that you want to observe the problem and not be part of that problem. And the goal is just to distance yourself and say, why am I believing that? Who did I see model that I took on that belief? And what oftentimes people find is, I've been living into a story that was given to me, and I've not created my own story. And I would say right now this is a great time to press the pause button, assess your story, and say, look, going forward, it's time to write some new chapters.
Yeah, that's such a great exercise. It's something that I've done in the past, but I definitely need to do it again. So it's writing that down to make sure I do it again later. What are your thoughts on the current state. So you're saying like right now is kind of a gold mine, but there's a lot happening, as we all know. We don't need to get into all the details. One of the things though is money's being printed, right? There's billions, trillions of dollars being printed in countries, and to me, that's not a good thing. There is lots of opportunity, but what do you think of the current state, and what do you think is going to happen in the future?
So that's a great question. And where I go back to when I hear that question is, what are things that I can control? What are things I can influence? And what are things I can neither control nor influence? And here's what I mean by that. There's so much news today. It's readily accessible, and we often can get sort of sucked into this economic story. There's world crises. There's the new presidential administration. Do we like them? Do we not? Printing money. Should people receive bailouts? Should they not? There's all these things that we can debate. And my concern, Casey, and I think you'll appreciate this, is I think we should be informed as business owners and as consumers, but we don't want to be consumed by that. And what I mean by that is ultimately it's up to each of us to work up a plan, find a pain point that we can solve. How do we add more value and actually increase our prices by adding more value so that our personal economy, not necessarily the general economy, but our personal economy, the snow globe that we all live in, can have better weather inside of it than maybe what the world is experiencing. So I think it's something we want to be cautious about. Will there be likely rising inflation? Yes. Will we likely see more volatility in the stock market? Yes. Is there gridlock politically? Yes. Is there world crises? Yes. And once we accept that that will likely continue on, there'll be another season of that renewed, if you will. I just think as business owners, we want to make sure that we're doing what we can control. And that is, again, building the business and really adding real value to people. I want to share a quick story with you, if I may. There was a couple that came in my office. This was about 5 years ago. And you know those people, really, really well, that without even saying anything, you can just tell something's bothering them. It's like they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders, those
Yeah.
kind of people. So they sat down, we had some small talk, and I said, look, it's obvious something's bothering you. Tell me what's happening. They said, Derrick, I've had this business now. He's had it for about 10 years. It was a recycling business. He said, for whatever reason, I'm just not into it anymore. I feel like I'm mailing it in every day. My kids are working there. It's great to have them there, but I'm not motivated. I leave work feeling pretty blah. And the idea occurred to me. And I said, are there any causes or things that you really would like to give back to, that really you want to make an impact in? And the question caught him off guard. He sat back. He said, Derrick, a couple years back, we went on a vacation. In the village that we went to, the tour guide talked about how in this village, they really needed a school built for the kids. They were really falling behind because of not having a central place to meet. And I made a note of that, but then I got busy, time went by, and just thought, what really could I do? And I said to him, what if you did this? What if you set a goal to increase sales by a certain amount over the next 12 months, and you took half of those profits and put it toward the school? His eyes got as big as saucers. He said, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. So he left, comes back in 3 months later. He looks younger. He looks happier. He looks like a guy on a mission, for goodness sakes. Like he's all in. He said, Derrick, you're not going to believe what happened. I took what you said. We're actually up already 20% this year. We've already funded half of that school. Now, that was a moment. I'm typically not a very emotional guy, but we shared a tear across the table together because here was a guy that I saw transforming right in front of my eyes. But more importantly, it wasn't like he said, Derrick, I just gave this money. That was great. But what I liked about it was he said, Derrick, we made more money. So his lifestyle improved. He actually got more involved and more invigorated in the business, and he helped the cause he felt deeply about. It was the trifecta of giving. So that's what makes this model, I think, unique, and why people can fit into it is they've been told so long, just give, 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 but ultimately it's at their expense. If we can teach people how to actually make more money on the front end by customers wanting to be part of your new story, because when they do business with you, they're helping make the community better, the world better. They're helping build houses for the less fortunate. they will pick you and even pay more because they're part of something not just anybody can provide, but you're uncommoditizing what you do and the value that you provide.
Yeah, that's such a great idea, right? It's you need that common purpose, that goal to work towards, because that's ultimately what, especially business owners, right? Usually when you start, you have a goal, but your goal is very much about the business, right? Making money, getting your first customer, all of those things. But after 10 years, things change.
Right.
What are you doing it for now? I want to shift a little bit back though to kids. We talked a little bit about kids at the beginning. Do you have kids, Derek?
Yeah, so we've got 4 kids.
Four.
My daughter graduated from college last year. I've got a daughter who is going to be a junior in college. Got a son who just graduated high school, going off to college. And then I've got a junior in high school.
So it's slowly getting less busy, but you would have been busy quite a few years ago.
Right. Well, and actually, I like to say it lets me practice what I'm preaching. So, yes.
All right. So when did you start talking about money with your kids?
Well, a mentor taught me that more is often caught than taught. And I had a real pivotal moment with my oldest daughter. There's a business club that I teach at our kids' school, and it's a way to impart financial knowledge, but also soft skills. So I would teach the kids how to shake hands, how to look people in the eye, how to get people to know you, like you, trust you. And I just loved it. That's a real passion I've got, is investing in the lives of young people and really extracting every ounce of potential inside of people. I just love it. And with my oldest daughter, one day, just the conversation came up, and I just had this epiphany. And I said, I really want to give my kids the gift of dad. I want to share with my kids all those things I wish my dad hadn't told me. And I want to give them this benefit of all this wisdom that I had. Well, what quickly happened was my balloon got popped really quick. So I said, Lauren, there's this business club at school, and I think you'd really enjoy it. Why don't you come sometime? She was like, why would I want to do that? I'm busy. So my whole sales pitch just got shot down. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I love working with money. I love motivating people. And that wasn't the response I wanted from my daughter. I'm going to have to rehone my strategy. So I waited a couple of days and I came back and I said, hey, Lauren, I don't think you're going to really be interested in this. But I said, there's this business club and we talk about money and we give away people's favorite candy. Like I said, I don't think you're going to like it, but in case you do down the road, just let me know. No, Dad, tell me more about it. I want to know more about it. So I began to tell her more. So the hook was set. And what I realized was sort of the playing hard to get approach was very, very effective. And she then began to come with all of her friends. They sat on the front row. And she now says it was one of the most pivotal things that she was able to experience in high school. It really, really helped her. So that's one thing there, is just I've always tried to be active in my kids' school, but also teaching them practical things. But also, in case this might surprise you, I have found one of the greatest tools is being transparent about my many mistakes to my kids. If we're around the dinner table and we all go around and we talk about how was your day? How was your day? It's just the routine checks or the boxes you check around the dinner table. But if I say to them, you know what, I got to tell you guys, I really screwed up today. I sold an investment way too early and went up, or I lost a lot of money. Their eyes are all on me and it's a teaching moment. And what I've learned, and something that I actually regret, is that I wasn't more candid with the mistakes I made growing up with my kids, because I think they will look at all of us. And they, kids look at their parents as they could do no wrong, or surely they have it all figured out. And they think their problems are unique to them in that moment. And what I realized was our kids need to know that we're very human, and it actually makes us even more of a superhero to our kids the more human that we reveal ourselves to be.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that's common for a lot of things, right? Is that's something that we can connect on, because nobody's perfect. We all make lots of mistakes, and if people are willing to share that, not like, oh, poor woe is me sort of thing. It's like, no, I made a mistake, but here's what I did about it. Here's what I learned. I think that can be really powerful, especially in business, because there's so many mistakes that can be made, and we continue to make. I've made a lot and lost a lot of money over the years. I always told people, like, I went into construction because I could, skip the debt of school, and start making money. But what happened is I went into business and lost all the money
Yeah.
as I learned all the mistakes, right? So I've spent way more on personal development and business mistakes than most people have spent on school. So now I'm starting to get ahead.
Well, you make a great point, Casey. And one thing I would say to your listeners as well that I've learned along the way is, even though more is caught than taught, not to let that be the only teacher. For example, I love to buy and sell stocks. I just love investing in those kind of things. And so I realized two things. One was I wasn't really showing my kids how to do that. And so I said, hey, let's buy a couple stocks here. I'll give you some advice on it. And so we talk through, I want you to understand the emotional side of this, of how good it feels to make money, but also how it really sucks to lose money. And that's the normal emotional range of investing. And as long as you can understand that and embrace that, you will be a good investor and keep a good perspective, because you can't panic. I had a client one time that he would go upstairs every morning and check the balance of his accounts. And his mood was dictated by however his accounts were. If it was up, he was in a great mood. If the accounts were down, he was the guy you didn't want to be around. Well, one day his wife, as she told me the story, finally said, look, if you go up there again today, I will not be here when you come back down. And it just taught him the lesson that, okay, he began to check it once a month. It kind of evened out his emotions. But also one thing that I wasn't doing, Casey, was I wasn't talking to my kids about how my wife and I gave our money. We've always been, I think, very generous with our money because we've been very purpose driven about making money to give money. But we did a lot of it anonymously, so our kids didn't know. So we began to share with them, hey, by the way, here's an example of something that we did recently. Here's what we're about to do, because we wanted them to see how this really works. I just realized, man, if I write a book on this, I've got a podcast on this, I speak on this, and I'm not really sharing with my kids how we really do this, I've done them a big disservice. And so I think right now it's a good call to action. I call this the ultimate reset button as we come out of COVID. Whatever life experiences you've got, pick the right moment. For my youngest son, the best time to talk to him is about 11:30 at night, every night when he gets hungry. We'll hop in his truck and I'll say, hey, you want to get something to eat? We don't even look at each other. We just look straight ahead. We're talking and his thoughts and ideas come out. And that's the moment I've got to insert, here's a little point. And then that door closes again and we're on to tomorrow night. But take advantage of those moments, because for each of our kids, they're golden. And I want to make sure that they know that, hey, dad makes mistakes, but he gets back up again and wants the best for us.
That's a great point. Our son, we have one, he's almost 8, but it's always right before bedtime. He doesn't stop talking. His questions are going, mine's going a mile a minute. He'll call you up like 3 times because he forgot something and he wants to tell you about it, right? It almost gets frustrating, but it's true. You got to take that moment. And actually, if you have something that you maybe want to teach him or talk to him about, that's the time. That's when you get all the information out of them.
Yeah. That's the golden moment right there. Exactly.
That's a good reminder. You mentioned like you do all your donations anonymously. Why do you do that? Like what's the benefit towards doing that versus putting your name on it?
Well, not everything is anonymous, but I'll give you a couple examples. So early when we first got married, we were in a really good Sunday school class at our church. And it was the type of class where we're all newly married. Some of us had kids. Some of us were about to have kids. And the common challenges were, I don't like my job. My kid's not sleeping through the night. I'm not making any money. Well, one couple in specific, a storm had come through our neighborhood and their roof got decimated. And they barely had a penny to their name. They needed a couple $1,000s to pay for the deductible to get the process going. So that was their request they brought up to the class. So a couple of us got together and said, hey, why don't we pool some money together and give it to them anonymously? And so we did that. And I ended up going to the bank and got a cashier's check. And what we did is we put that in their mailbox. And so the next Sunday, they're coming in beaming, telling us, and of all people, they told me, they said, Derrick, you're not going to believe what happened. Somebody gave us money to pay for our roof. Well, now I didn't expect it, but now you have to practice the poker face,
right,
of acting like you don't know what's going on and being surprised. That's amazing. God provided all these kind of things. And it was so joyful for them not to know, because in some cases, you don't want people to feel like you're sort of better than them or you're doing something above them. I'm just very sensitive to that. But also, I didn't want that to stop us from taking action. And that then motivated me. So in that case, there it was totally anonymous. In other cases, for example, I may get a request from a cause I believe in. Maybe it's the local homeless shelter or something that comes up, and I'll give them a donation. And I'll just say, "Hey, I don't want to make a big deal out of it." And I get a tax receipt, but it's not like, "Hey, who Derrick donated this," that kind of thing. So
Right.
those are things I'm just very sensitive about, because again, part of the good money framework has a thread of humility woven through it. The goal here is not to say, "Hey, look at me, I'm this grandiose giver." But another story to share with you. We had a big influx of clients the last couple years of my practice, and I finally asked a couple people. I said, "Hey, if you don't mind me asking, why did you call me? There's a lot of advisors in the area that you could pick. Why did you call us?" And they said, "Derrick, we see you in the community all the time. We see you recognizing students. We see you recognizing teachers. We see how you give back, and we want to be a part of that." That blew me away. Now, to some of you listening, that may sound obvious, but it didn't even register to me that people would make a buying decision based on the persona they saw of a person in the community. That was really, really powerful. Now, I'll give you an example. We were giving $50 a month to a student of the month at several of the local high schools. We were giving another $50 a month to a few teachers of the month. Now, keep in mind, when you're a student or a teacher, that's like hitting the lotto for a lot of these people, because they can use, the teachers use this automatically for school supplies. It's like their whole salary goes back to taking care of their kids. And the students are like, "This is great. Nobody's ever done this before." But it took me back to when I was a kid. Nobody did that for me. And I thought to myself, what would I have wanted someone to do for me that I could do for this generation? So that was like $100 for a month. But over the period of several years and consistency, it allowed me to differentiate myself as a financial advisor of choice in my local area. Now, again, was I competent? Yes. Was I trustworthy? Yes. Was I good with money? Yes. Was I personable? Yes. All those things, and you have to assume everybody else is as well. But then when you can make the world better, especially your little tiny world around you better, it brought in more and more clients. Our business grew dramatically.
Yeah, I can imagine. The and I keep kind of thinking of the term, like the fact that money's like a river, right? It's got to keep flowing. I love that, and partly because I got a pond I'm dealing with too, right? And it's kind of
Okay. You can relate to that. Yes.
relate to the pond. The pond's leaking somewhere, right? So the money's flowing out. I don't know where it's going, but got to find it. But so what would you recommend? Like, so there's business owners out there. Um, what would you recommend they need to do first, right? And I'm thinking of, the Conscious Builder Academy and the people that we're attracting there. And ultimately where I see it, it's when I started my business or a couple of years in, you realize then that you don't know everything, right? So I was pretty young when I started the company, but you start to realize that you don't know. And there's a lot of things that you need to figure out. There's a lot of moving parts to business, but money is like one of those things that if you can't get a grasp of it, you can't stay in business, right? So what would you recommend for some of those business owners that, they're working hard, but they just can't seem to get ahead. They feel like they're grinding their gears. They're losing that motivation, that passion that they had when they started their business.
Well, you mentioned passion. The first step of the good money framework is to define what I call your generosity purpose. Now, what that is that's the core cause. That's the core item that you want to make an impact. And, people see there's causes they believe in, there's wrongs they want to help right, there's injustices around the world. And that would be a central point that you say, I want to make an impact here. And here's why I say that. Here's what's at stake. The problem people have right now is they're not making enough money and they're not making the impact in the world they really, really want. What I would ask each of the business owners thinking or listening to think about is this. What would happen if you don't make the difference in the world that you really want? It could cause you to make less money. It could cause many customers not to benefit from the great work that you do. And it could cause you not to live the life you've always wanted and have that legacy. So many people talk about, when I die, I want this legacy. I think you can have that legacy while you're living and actually enjoy it. You want to be somebody who walks in the room at the Rotary Club, the Kiwanis Club, church, whatever it may be. Oh, yeah, well, you're the guy that's so generous in the community. Thanks for all you do. Well, does that endear you to that person or make you less likely to work with that person? It endears you to the person. That's a story they want to be a part of. So the key
Mm,
here is to talk about, what is it that I want to be generous to? And then you've got a choice to make. You can make it a personal goal or a business goal. So there's two pathways here, Casey. The personal goal would be, I'm going to set a sales goal that by increasing sales, increasing revenue, increasing customer count, whatever your measurable is, when I do that, I will then give, you name the percent or the dollar amount, to my cause of choice. That becomes your personal drive as to why you're doing this. And it's got to be something that you care deeply about. If you don't, you may want to take some time to think about, does this cause really motivate me and put my back against the wall to do some things I'm going to be uncomfortable? Cold calling, asking for referrals, growing my business, all those things that take getting outside your comfort zone to do. Is it worth it? But also thinking about the stakes. If I don't do this, there's people who will not receive the benefit I can give them, and I have control of that. All right, so that's step number one, the personal side. Number two would be to involve it as part of your business mantra, meaning deciding, here's the organization we're going to support. And as part of your marketing, part of your sales, letting people know, hey, we've decided, we've created a generosity purpose for our business, and we've decided to contribute to this organization. And here's why. And you tell the story why it matters to you. Because as I was growing up, I saw this. And if I would have had this, it would have helped me to do this and would have solved this problem. And then people can say, when you work with us, a percentage of our business goes to help eradicate, help solve, help correct what's happening here. And that becomes part of your business model. And so all of that, then, whether you have a function, you talk to a client, and nothing more powerful than they do business with you and they get a note in the mail a week or so later. And just so you know, X amount was donated in your name to this cause. So all of that is like, this is great. I mean, picture somebody in a newly crafted house that they love, that you were great to work with, and it's like the cherry on the sundae, and you help make somebody else's world better. That's a powerful solidification of the quality of the relationship that you've got. So what I would just say is, just test it. Test it, and you'll see it's helped thousands of other business owners contribute and really make a difference in their community, because it's different. If we just say, I just want to make money, it's fun to make money, no doubt. But ultimately, it's a very temporary high. The thing that really makes you feel good is to know that you've made money and you help somebody else anonymously, or they know it, improve their lives. That's what lets you go to sleep at night and really sleep well.
yeah, that reminds me. I was listening to an interview with, I'm sure you know TD Jakes.
Yes, yes.
He was on. He just had a new book that came out, so I was listening to one of his interviews, and he was talking about. Totally just lost my train of thought there. It was with Tony Robbins, and he was talking about changing the world, right? And it's obviously that's a big goal, right? If you're trying to change the world. However, if you can help one person, if you can help change one person, you just change the world for that person,
Yes.
right? If you have them see it differently, you have changed the world, not for everybody, but for that one individual, which is, who's to say that's not changing the world, right? So I love that.
Well, and I think you're right. I mean, and I think the question is, who would say that's not changing the world? I think so many people think changing the world is this grandiose plan, and people need to adjust their definition of, what does it mean to change the world? An example I would give you, Casey, when I'm driving and I'm in the left-hand turn lane and I'm waiting and I see the other cars coming across, turning from their lane, I make it a point to look inside each car as best I can. And I say, I've got my own set of problems, but those are worlds driving by me right now. Everybody in their own world, they've got worries about their family, their job, their life. Am I going to make ends meet? And it's a dose of perspective whenever I drive. And it's a perspective that just because I am where I am, I've got to be empathetic toward other people's needs. And it's so important that, especially for business owners right now, those that are on time, which sounds so funny, and know what they're doing and keep their word and return calls and get the bid back when they say they're going to, assuming all of that's in place, if they can make their customers and clients feel heard and understood, that empathy is worth a higher price to work with that person. I built my financial planning practice as a premium level practice. We weren't the lowest cost providers in town because we added value. We provided great money management, but we listened. We crafted the plan. We walked alongside people to get what it was that they wanted. And I think for now, that's one thing the business owners can really work on, is an empathetic ear, really listening carefully, because that will be one differentiator. And again, I'm all about making money, but what are the practical tools to help you do that? And if you do that, I think you're going to feel much stronger as a business owner and really someone who's connecting with people's pain points.
Absolutely. All right. So you have the 7-step good money framework that people can download. That is on your website, goodmoneyframework.com. Is there anything else that you want to share other than where to get a hold of you?
No, as you can tell, I'm very passionate about this, but more than passion, I like profits. And so I want each of your listeners to not take away, Derrick was this pie in the sky guy. I want you to make more money, because money is good. And it's one of the most powerful levers that you can pull to impact your business, your family, and the world around you. And I would just tell you, download the 7-step good money framework, walk through it. And I think you'll begin to find that when you can find a passion you've got, it will drive you to have an even better and more sustainable, and I would say impactful business, the one you've always wanted.
Well, I can't think of a better way to end this. So that is a perfect way. Once again, that website is goodmoneyframework.com. Derrick, thank you so much. I could have went on for probably another couple hours with all sorts of questions around money, but it would have been revolving around other things. We'll have to have you back on another time for sure. So thanks again.
Oh, this was great, Casey. Thanks for the invite. I loved our time together. Thank you so much.
So glad you stayed to the very end with us on this interview. If what Derrick was talking about hit home for you, check out his links below, but also check out consciousbuilderacademy.com. We just launched our first official program called Increasing Profit, the Bottom Line. Once again, consciousbuilderacademy.com. Sign up right away.